Hello, welcome back to 1874. It's Monday, a little bit later than normal, but it is the podcast with myself, Dan Bardell, and my good friend, one of my favourite people in the world, my Sky Sports News colleague, even David Reed, joining me to chat through Aston Villa 2, West Ham United 1 in the FA Cup, Villa in the hat for the fourth round, which isn't something that's happened too many times in the last decade. Also, Marlin looks set to sign from Dortmund. Dave and myself are going to discuss that as well. That's one of the reasons the podcast is a little bit later today, because we did think it might progress a little bit quicker, but a fee has been agreed and I would expect that to happen very, very soon. This show, as always, is sponsored by NordVPN, and if you want to get a huge discount and 4 months free, just go to 1874.io/NordVPN. It's completely risk-free because Nord offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. Right, David, how are you? Looking forward to we're together tomorrow, aren't we, on the television? Looking forward to spending some time together in person.
Yeah, should be good. Looking forward to it. Good lineup tomorrow. Strong lineup.
Yeah, this is kind of like the warm up for us, isn't it? Before tomorrow's main event. So it's I'm looking forward to seeing you. As I said, going to be a good show. So if you want to see Dave and me on the telly tomorrow, tune in on Sky Sports News 9 o'clock and midday, and you will see us both. And hopefully, we will get to talk a little bit about some Villa. Right then, David, let's start with the breaking news today that Marlin, the offer has been accepted by Dortmund from Aston Villa Football Club around the £20 million mark. 19.4, I think, is the price that the Athletic are reporting. A signing I'm really, really excited about personally. I mean, he's been a good player for Dortmund. Mixed messages from the Dortmund fans, but as I said on Twitter earlier, you know, Middlesbrough fans said they'd had our pants down for Rodgers. Leicester fans were laughing at us signing Tielemans when we're in the Champions League. You know, there is no exact science to this. You know, just because a player hasn't worked at one club or a fan base isn't keen on them doesn't mean they won't work here. And I just think that under Emery, the way we play, the way we like to attack in transition, his raw pace, you know, left-footed, is a Bailey alternative. We've struggled for width on that side when Bailey's not there. There's a few reasons I'm excited about this signing, but where do you sit with it?
Yeah, I mean, it fits, I think, a need that Villa have in this transfer window. I think Villa have a space for a player that really does have explosive pace, and I think Marlin does have that. I think that's something that perhaps Villa have missed a little bit. And it does offer good competition in the forward areas. He's a player that can play on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side. If required, he can probably play in one of the front two positions as well. And I think given the fact that Leon Bailey hasn't reached the levels that he had last season, Jadon Philogene, I think it was hoped, would be real competition for Leon Bailey. And unfortunately for him, he hasn't shown the level that I think Unai Emery wanted and perhaps expected from him. It means that Villa are going back into the market, and Marlin as an option at the right price point, I think, for Villa as well. That's important to mention. A player with international Champions League experience, it feels like that price is a solid one, a reasonable one, both from Villa's point of view and from Dortmund's point of view. And I think he can offer something that Villa don't have at the moment.
Yeah, kind of. You look at it; he's the Diaby replacement, and they do have some similar attributes. You know, Diaby was very, very quick. I think Marlon might be faster from what I've seen. I could be wrong there, but I think he's actually a little bit quicker than Diaby. Different type of dribbler to Diaby, and that, you know, if you give him space, I think that's where he really comes alive. And I just feel that in transition, that's going to be something that's really going to suit the way Villa play, and it's going to suit the way he plays as well. Obviously, Villa, we're waiting on Philogene at the moment at Ipswich. Not sure exactly what's going on there. I think there might be some developments coming very soon with that one. But yeah, I won't go into detail. But yeah, I'm not sure everything is as it seems at the moment. How we know Villa need to do more business, but you know, I think most people would say right side is probably the area of urgency for Villa, whether that be right back or the right wing, given that, you know, Bailey and Cash, really they're the only players who are naturals in those positions that play on that side. So this is kind of a tick in the box for Villa's January transfer window, and it's the 13th of January.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. I think the right-hand side is an issue for kind of quality and squad depth this season. So it is a tick in this transfer window. Should this deal get over the line, which you kind of expect it to in the coming days. So I think from Marlin's point of view, I think, you know, there's been question marks a little bit over his consistency at Dortmund. Maybe in his defence, he's had quite the churn of managers. I don't think he's really played under a proper I'm going to use the word elite manager like Unai Emery, someone who is settled at a club and has got the complete backing of everybody at the club. I don't think Marlin has quite had a manager to work under at the level of Unai Emery so far, and you'd like to think that a manager like Unai Emery would be able to get the best out of him. And given his track record with the players at Aston Villa, you can't argue against him being able to unlock the qualities of Marlin. And hopefully this is a chance for him to realise the potential that a lot of people in the game have seen in him for a long time. Ever since he was a youngster, he's been on the lips of players within clubs about a player to watch in Europe and someone that they thought could reach the very top. Now, the fact is he hasn't shown that consistency in order to be at the top end of European football. But having said that, I think he's been joint top scorer and top scorer in the last couple of seasons for Borussia Dortmund. I think that's what they've said in the media as well, in terms of how the negotiations have gone, and tried to show how much of a key player he has been for them over the last couple of years, and why that should mean that Villa pay exactly what Borussia Dortmund are asking for. So there's obviously a player that's in there, and it's now about Villa being able to get the best out of him.
Yeah, David starts to say Marlin looks like he could run through a wall. Diaby was a lot more lightweight. I think he does have that more power to go with pace. I think what you've just said there kind of hits the nail on the head, is that Dortmund really over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a high turnover of managers, a relatively high turnover of players as well. So it hasn't been a stable place to play football. You could say as well that Villa aren't in transition, whereas it's felt a little bit more like since Marlin's been at Dortmund, they've been in transition for a lot of that time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, for a side in transition, they did reach the Champions League final, so they haven't done.
Yeah, I mean that was
haven't done too badly.
Yeah, it was a strange run, wasn't it? Really.
And of course, he will know a player like Ian Maatsen and well. So there's already going to be a relationship there. Someone that perhaps Monchi and Vidigani can ask for some feedback from him on the player. And I think from Villa's point of view, perhaps this season at times, not every game, but at times, Villa's attack has looked a little bit one-dimensional, and they've struggled to have that player that can change the pace of a game or change the tempo of a game. And I think they're hoping that Marlin is the player that can do that, whether that's from the start, whether that's coming off the bench.
Yeah, this is a valid point that's just come in from LJF Mac. Very few wingers are genuinely consistent, and if they are, they're beyond our current reach on paper. As Jaden has flattered to deceive, this is a no-brainer. I'd agree with both those things, except for at the ultimate highest level, and I'm talking like Vinny Jr., Yamal. You know, unless you're at the highest level, wingers are generally inconsistent, and we've seen that with Villa wingers over the years. But I think as Villa have developed as a club, the players that play wide have got better in quality, and you get a little bit more consistency. You saw Bailey in a thriving environment last season, and he did really, really well. He's had injury problems this season. He has had form problems. I'm not making excuses for him, but I do think all those things are valid. Jacob mentioned that we've been after him for like 3 windows now. He's been someone that Villa have been tracking for 3 windows. Probably 3 windows ago, we wouldn't have been able to pull a player like him from Dortmund, because even though he's playing at Dortmund, and some might see going from Dortmund to Villa in the Premier League as being a step up, we've now got that Champions League kudos that can get players across. I've had a few people mention he's played in the Champions League for Dortmund, so would he be able to play for Villa? I'm pretty sure he can. I'm pretty sure that cup tied rule has gone from what I remember.
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I'd have to double check. Well,
you respond to what I've just said, and I will double check now about whether you are cup tied.
Look, I think from Marlin's point of view, I don't think players will see Villa now as a kind of downward step. I think they can see that the club is ambitious, and I think players are sold that as well. And you're right, 3 windows ago, Villa are in a different market to what they're shopping in now. And having said all of that, when you talk about markets that Villa are in, it's all dependent on how much money Villa have to spend. And the fact of the matter is, money is having to be shuffled around because of the profit and sustainability rules. So that is why Villa can't go out and spend 50, 60 million pounds on a winger to bring a player in. It's why Villa are having to spend, from what we hear, the deal agreed is around 20 million. And that's the market that Villa are shopping at the moment. You know, you can't get a consistent top draw winger for £20 million. You can't. So you're going to have trade off somewhere. And for Villa, it's a player that they've tracked for a long time. They've seen, and they believe has untapped potential. And that's the kind of market that Villa are in.
Yeah, I mean, a few people are saying here that he won't be cup tied, and I've just read on the 27th of March 2018, UEFA announced that it would phase out the cup tied rule for the Champions League and the Europa League starting in the 2018-19 season. But Gig Sharma mentions here, which could be a really valid point. He says he can't play against Monaco and Celtic, but can in the knockout stage. So we'll get absolute confirmation that that's true. But I'm sure Geek Sharma has got absolutely no reason to lie to us at all on the on the old live chat on the podcast. So thank you for that, Geek Sharma. Right then, let's talk about transfers. Jacob said it was going to be a big week this week. Decisions would be made, and maybe we'll see some movement on a right back now that they get Marlin over the line. So we'll see what happens with that and when Marlin actually signs. Let's talk about the game that took place, what feels like it was ages ago now, on Friday night, Dave. Aston Villa 2, West Ham 1. Start with the game. I mean, the first half, again, 2 games running at Villa Park. You've done well to stay awake in the first half, because it was a tedious affair off the back of the Leicester home game, where the first half was a tough watch. I think the first half from Villa against West Ham in the FA Cup might have been even worse, because from what I remember, I don't think we had a shot.
Yeah, it was a poor first half. I will say that it was a poor first half, and I think you probably have to give a little bit of credit to West Ham and the way they set up, and there was actually some organisation off the ball from West Ham, which we haven't seen a lot of the time this season. You could already see the impact that Graham Potter had. I think Somerville almost played as a wing back at times and was on the last line of defence, tracking Luca Digne. You could see the plan that they had in midfield. And, in fairness to them, they managed to get the goal. I think it feels like a little bit like even half a mistake is getting punished at the moment. And I thought in the build-up to the West Ham goal, Villa actually pressed them quite well. They forced a long ball. And then as soon as the defender slips, they're at the back four. And then, unfortunately, Ian Martin's not able to defend the run from Somerville, and the cross comes in, and they manage to score from it. It feels like every little mistake is getting punished at the moment. I think the frustration is coming from within as well. I think the Villa players and the Villa management know they are conceding too many goals. And if Villa are to reach their goals this season, they have to stop conceding goals.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is I think it was the second shot of the game. So it's an improvement on recent games. So the first shot didn't go in. So it's the second shot. So it's baby steps where Villa are concerned in terms of letting in the first shot in every game. So that was an improvement. I thought it was a relatively well-worked goal from West Ham. Like you say, you could see the difference, what Potter had implemented in the short time he'd had there. Villa found the first half very hard. I think Mings was getting a bit of stick for not playing the ball quick enough. But I've got to say, West Ham was set up very well from Villa goal kicks, and Villa seemed to have a lot of goal kicks, all the ball being with Emi Martinez. They tended to get in very, very narrow, and they left no pathway for Villa to build up through the middle. So really the only ball was ever Maatsen on the left, and then Mings was at the point where he thought, I can't just keep playing this pass. I can't just keep playing the ball out to Ian Maatsen as he bombs on, and there wasn't anything on, so he'd invariably end up going across the concert or back to Martinez. It was a rotten first half from Villa, and you did start to think in that first half, it's not meant to be for us in the FA Cup anymore. We're just never going to get through. The West Ham fans were loud and vocal. They had virtually the whole of the Doug Ellis, for those who didn't know. I found it quite bizarre sitting in my seat in the whole 10 that it was just the away fans across virtually the entirety of the Doug Ellis, and they got behind their team, and it was a good atmosphere from there, and it was a good atmosphere from the Villa fans as well. But it was a tough watch in the first half. But I do think West Ham generally made it quite difficult for Villa, and sometimes you do have to take your hat off to the opposition and say they set up well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think the thing with the Mings situation building from the back is that the ideal scenario for Villa's centre backs is can you feed the 2 pivot players? And if you can't, can you try and find the 2 10s? And that's the ideal situation. And if you're able to find the 2 10s on the half turn, even better. And I think then it's down to the fullbacks to overlap once the 2 10s or the 2 midfielders have the ball. So I can understand why he was almost turning down that pass, because that's not the ideal scenario as to how Villa want to attack and build. So yeah, understand that. And I think you're right. West Ham made it very, very narrow in midfield. So Villa couldn't progress through the centre of the pitch. And they wanted to force Villa out wide. And I think their game plan worked. I think second half, there was a little bit more impetus. A couple of tweaks in the second half. I thought, Kamara was much more in that right centre-back slot on the ball in the second half. And Matty Cash was much higher up the pitch, and I think that helped in terms of stretching West Ham and having that run in behind. And Scarles, who I thought had a good game at left back for West Ham.
Yeah, the fans were liking him. They kept singing his name a lot.
Yeah, there was something different for him to look at in the second half when he had Matty Cash running over his shoulder. So I think the tweaks in the second half, a little bit more tempo, a little bit of a differentiation on the threat coming from both sides, really. And I think that helped Villa get back in the game.
Yep, Simon Kelly, absolutely right in the chat. I did say Martinez. I meant Robin Olsen. Just complete habit of talking about Martinez building up from the back, because obviously he plays 95% of Villa's games in goal. So yes, right to pick me up on that. It was not Emi Martinez in goal. It was Robin Olsen in that green kit for the evening. Second half then, and Villa were a lot better. You're right about the tempo, but being far better. But it did take a kind of a breakdown from a set piece again. To get Villa going, just again shows how important set pieces are for Villa. And when Onana does play, shows how important he is, and they're causing havoc. I know it wasn't him that won the initial header. It's we love that near post flick at the moment. It's quite unorthodox sometimes the way we did it, and I would describe the delivery and the Mings flick as both being quite unorthodox, but it worked. Konsa kept it alive. Maatsen had a shot that I can't remember if it got blocked or it got saved. It felt forward to Onana, who kind of sniffed out a goal, didn't they?
Yeah, and again, you're right. Importance of set pieces there. Villa have worked so hard on it over the years, and I think it comes from a situation that has been worked on. And every set piece has a target as to where it's going to go, and then it's down to the coordination of the players to execute the plan. And I don't really want to talk about Paquetá too much and the histrionics there, but I'm glad, given there was no VAR, that the referee didn't look at his reaction and go, well, I'll give a free kick for that. And and then the ball stayed alive, and Villa managed to put it in the back of the net. So from Villa's point of view, second phase set piece, those are really hard to defend, because you set up as a defensive side to win the first contact. And then the second phase of the set piece is kind of everyone's out of position looking over at each other going, where should we be? Where should we be? And the ball ends up in the back of the net. So disappointment for West Ham, because I thought they were a little bit unfortunate, especially given the fact that it should not have been a corner, and how the official gives the corner there, I've got absolutely no idea. But from Villa's point of view, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting one for Onana as well. Obviously, he didn't start the game. Ross Barkley started the game and went off injured, and he's going to be out for 3 weeks. But probably a big moment for him, really, in the context of his season, because it does feel like he's lost his way a little bit at the moment. It felt very much like he's fourth choice central midfielder at the moment as well. So even just putting the ball in the back of the net, it'll do him some good, because I think after a stupendous start for Villa, where he was in the goals as well, bitty injuries and in and out of the team, and not really been able to get any consistency. So just scoring that goal will be quite a big thing for him.
Yeah, and I think he's had fitness issues as well this year, which has obviously not helped him in terms of getting rhythm and starts in games. So you're right. I think it'll do him the world of good getting that goal. It'll do him the world of good, and hopefully for him, he can go on a bit of a run now. I would expect him to play against his former club this week. Yeah. So hopefully for him, he's able to continue that form into this game this week.
Should say it wasn't a corner, was it?
Well, no, it wasn't. I don't know how. He
with one there.
Did that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
And what did you generally think of the game without VAR?
Well, we spoke about VAR last week, and I enjoyed it without VAR. I enjoyed it.
You just know when you celebrate a goal, it counts. It's simple as that, really. When Onana scored, even though there was a lot going on, and usually you're probably worrying as a supporter in the ground that they're going to look at something here, that they might find something. As soon as that ball hit the net and the referee's pointed to the halfway line, you know that you're all right. So it was quite a surreal feeling to just celebrate a goal and not have anything to worry about, I thought.
And I think the officials actually referee the game differently when there is no VAR, because they are forced to make decisions, and they have to be absolutely sure, and they can't give safety red cards or red card because of a reaction like we saw against Newcastle, in the knowledge that somebody in the booth is going to have a look at it and tell them whether it's right or wrong or not. They actually have to make a decision. And I thought on the whole, the officials had a decent game, but obviously the corner that wasn't a corner was a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, I mean, the West Ham players and fans, you'd be upset. Look, we'd be crucifying things if that had happened to us. I saw today that actually there's like a report kind of come out this morning that Villa have come off the worst from VAR this season in terms of mistakes, with 4 mistakes against Villa this season. So we've had our share of bad luck. That won't help West Ham fans, and they still won't be happy about it. But honestly, it's felt like Villa have been hard done by on a number of occasions this season where VAR is concerned. So it was nice to have a game off from that, and obviously it will continue as long as Villa's FA Cup run continues. Villa then, this was the 71st minute, and Emery had lined up 3 changes just before we scored. The 3 players were due to come on. He didn't bring them on because we had the corner. He then makes the 3 changes. So Nedeljkovic for Cash, Ramsey came on for Bailey, Rodgers moving to the right-hand side, but he had real licence to float inside, as we saw with the goal. And Buendia came on for Kamara, which saw Tielemans move back. Now, one of my mates was texting me through the game saying Tielemans in the 10 is just wrong in this game. For a game like this, we need him further back, getting on the ball earlier, ready to break the lines and swivel on the ball and get a kind of play through the West Ham defence. Sorry, well, the West Ham team, really, not the defence. And then pretty shortly after the 76th minute, we saw exactly what he was talking about, because Olsen to Tielemans on the half turn, manages to swivel, gets round, plays a really incisive pass to Buendia. Buendia then picks the complete right pass to Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins on his left foot gets it across goal, and Rodgers scores in a similar vein to which Leon Bailey scored actually in the week before against Leicester. A proper Villa under Emery goal, I would say, back to front in record time, really well worked, a cut back and a goal. As I say, Rodgers was playing on the right-hand side at this point as kind of a right number 10. Managed to get across and took the ball into the back of the net. I just really loved that goal. I thought it was a lovely goal from Villa, and I think credit goes to kind of Tielemans as he's just moved back for making that all happen. And Emi Buendia as well. He hasn't had much football. It must be a really frustrating time for him at the moment, but he came on and played a part the other night.
Yeah, I think all those subs that you mentioned there really made an impact when they came on, and that's exactly what
was good as well. Actually,
he made the block at the end, didn't he? And I think there was a few of the players celebrating with him that block out. Yeah, I must admit I wasn't against Tielemans starting in the 10 in the game, but as it progressed,
yeah,
it felt to me that he was needed a bit deeper, and I was kind of itching for that move to be made earlier in the game. But it did come, and you saw the benefit of it pretty much straight away. Him being able to get on the ball, turn, and feed that ball through. Perfect ball. And then Buendia, as you mentioned, has been coming back, and he's been bits and pieces player, really coming on, trying to impact, trying to get match minutes, trying to get sharpness. And it feels like the last couple of games against Leicester, against West Ham, it's felt like he's getting back to a level where he can make a proper impact in Villa's 11. Now, I'm not saying that he can force his way into the starting 11, but we're seeing more of an impact from him now off the bench, and it feels like his kind of touch is back, decision making, which is often a telltale sign of someone who's lacking match sharpness, when you kind of almost make the wrong decision or you hurry that pass. I feel like that's coming back a little bit for him too. He's getting in the right positions. Probably should have scored in the game against Leicester. And it feels like he's getting back to that level. And then, it was obviously a nice cut back from Watkins, and Rodgers puts it in. And then the other substitute, Jacob Ramsey, he could have scored. Yeah, almost did score. And he had a positive impact coming on, and he's really, really important for Villa. Villa really need him to get back to that top level that he's capable of, and he just needs to stay fit for a little bit of time and hopefully get back to that level. And Nedeljkovic as well, possibility that he leaves on loan this month if things transpire the way that Villa, I think, would like. They can get some cover in that right back, centre back slot, and Nedeljkovic can go and get minutes. But really crucial intervention at the end from him, and pleased for him too.
Yeah, I like his build, I do, and he's quick. Deceptively quick. I think Nedeljkovic, something about him I really, really like. But no doubt Villa know best, and Emery, and they'll do the right thing by him for the second half of the season. I think for sorry, got hiccups. I think for Buendia as well. I think it's like the last two have been the right type of games for him to come into. You've been given a bit more extension of minutes compared to what he'd had before, but it feels like those were the right games to throw him on. And as we talk about starters and finishers, as a finisher in certain games, he's definitely got some of the attributes that I think you would look for, especially at home games if you're drawing or if you're losing, where you might unlock something that perhaps hasn't been there earlier on in the game when people are getting tired as well, and you bring in runners on.
I think so, and the fact is, he's another one that can play in the different positions across the front three. So, another player with some versatility that, if Villa do get another injury, he's able to come in and make an impact. And the fact that he's now building that sharpness up means that you get more of a feeling that he's ready. He's ready if he's needed now. And I think you're right in terms of those games that he's been coming on in, certainly in the last couple of weeks, are the right type of games where he has been afforded a little bit more space to work and operate. I think that's helped him. And certainly timing of those substitutes, getting a slightly longer run at it, is only going to benefit him in the long run.
Yeah, Karan Gatkar, as said there, Danny, satisfied with the fourth round Spurs draw. We never get massively exciting games, do we, in the FA Cup day? It feels like we always get Premier League teams. Obviously, there's a Premier League team that knocked us out last year in Chelsea. But I am buzzing that it's at home again, and if we can get through that, you start to think that we hopefully we'll continue to take it seriously. Anyway, I was pleasantly surprised with how seriously we took it on Friday night. Obviously, Martinez was missing due to a small injury and Olsen play, but other than that, he was pretty much full tilt from Villa in that game. So I was pleased to see that. You'd imagine we'll see the same again against Spurs, and I always think the FA Cup, because the games aren't really midweek and you're playing kind of weekend to weekend, it's not much different. So you can take it seriously. It's not adding too much strain on your squad, in my opinion, because you might miss a weekend if you're not in the FA Cup because you're playing a team that is still in the FA Cup anyway. So I think a home game against Spurs, it will probably be one that's on Sunday or the Monday now because of Spurs' fixture congestion. That's an exciting game. I mean, Tamworth was so unlucky yesterday. We could have quite easily been playing Tamworth on another day. But I know it's not the most exciting because it's Premier League v Premier League, but that'll be a big game and a good atmosphere again.
Yeah, I agree. And I think from Villa's point of view, they will be going at it full tilt. I think given Villa's last couple of performances against Tottenham, it feels, if I was a player, I'd be wanting to play. I'd be wanting to play in that game and put a few things right, because things have not gone well against Tottenham the last couple of times that Villa have played them. So from the players' point of view, I think all of them will be itching to be out there for that game. I think Villa will take that with the respect that it deserves, that game. And a direct rival as well. You never know. Beating Tottenham in a cup game might impact them. I know they're not having the best of seasons, but you would suspect that they would build in the second half of the season towards the top end of the table. And if Villa can have perhaps a mental impact on them going forward, that's another thing to think about too for this game.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about the 150th celebrations very, very shortly. We'll just touch on them. But before we do, 1874 is proudly sponsored by NordVPN. So when and you can't watch it, we want to help you. NordVPN is a secure and private service which works on pretty much any device, including your laptop, mobile, and television. So if you want to watch some live content, it allows you to appear like you're in another country. And whilst you're connected, no one else can find out what you're doing, including your internet service provider. Beyond this, the service also has threat protection baked in to protect you from intrusive website ads and malware, which is pretty handy for you. As part of NordVPN support performance for free, this also includes Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All you've got to do is go to 1874.io/NordVPN and sign up. All the details are also in the description. As always, we're very grateful to anyone that signs up. We know that money is tight, but if you think NordVPN will help you out, it will also help keep the channel running and help us. Right then, the 150th celebrations. Then I've said what I've said before about the choice of game and it being in the 151st year. I won't go into that now and bore people. But how did it come across on the TV, Dave? Because I will say the atmosphere, particularly in the second half when we equalised, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. It was really nice to see that in the FA Cup again. And there's no doubt that the 150th, the fact it was that game, did play a part in that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, great. I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but from having watched it, atmosphere looked great. Packed out Villa Park, which means they've done well to market it. And I think from other people, casual football fans who aren't Villa supporters, I've had a lot of good feedback about the kit. Lots of non-Villa fans have come up to me and said that was a nice kit. And I think showcasing Villa to a wider, terrestrial audience is not a bad thing. And yeah, from what I saw, it looked like a good spectacle with the old players coming out as well. And I know the mascots as well were kind of relatives of some of the former players, which is a really nice touch. So it came across really well on the telly.
Yeah, look, mascots was a lovely touch. I've got a few personal things that I didn't think were great about it, so I'll talk about them. But I will say there was a lot of it that was good. The program's £1.50. Couldn't get one because everyone wanted one so bad. I got there relatively early in the queue to get one was massive, so I just thought, forget that. I'll buy one online. The shirt looks excellent. The badge is excellent. I'm a massive fan of that badge that they've used for the 150th anniversary celebrations. I actually prefer it more than the badge that we've got on the shirts all the way through the season. The kit, look, the design is brilliant, and the idea is good. I personally, my opinion is I don't think the execution of it is excellent in terms of the quality of the shirt, because it is just essentially an Adidas £20 shirt that you can get from Sports Direct in all probability. They charge you £80 for it, but ultimately, again, I'm part of the problem because I've bought one. I've got one coming. I checked them out in the shop before the game. I've got one coming, but I just think that could have been executed a little bit better. It felt a little bit rushed to me. I could be wrong with that, but it felt a little bit rushed. On the former players, I personally think there's been some massive oversights from what I hear. The players that were in attendance and that were paraded around at half time, they were the players that were working for the club on a match day anyway, all of them. And they were players that, had been asked to work that game. There was no extra player. So if you weren't working in that game, you weren't there, a la Gabriel Bonlahor, who, posted on his socials about not being invited. So I think, not lazy is probably not the right word, but a lack of thought in terms of it's just the players that were working that game anyway. So, I think a bit more thought could have gone into it. I think another example, Gareth Barry, record Premier League holder for Aston Villa. Why was he not invited? He should probably be there. So it was just the players, as I say, that were working the game anyway. Again, execution for me, like that. I've slated Chris Heck. I can't say that I haven't, but I can't deny that on a match day, the build up to the game and in the stadium, everything is better than it was. So credit where credit's due. And I've said that before, and I have commented on things that he's done that are good, but people just focus on the stuff I say on social media that's negative. But I have definitely on podcast praised stuff that is good. I think the execution of the ex-players could have been better. They all came out as one at halftime, walked around the pitch. None of them introduced. You couldn't see who some of them were because they were wearing hats, depending on where you're sitting in the ground. So I think maybe they could have got the players on before the game and ramped up the atmosphere a little bit by introducing them one by one before the game, getting the players on. That gets the crowd up. Each player then gets an individual reception. Instead, for me, they were all grouped together. It kind of lost its impact. But overall, I think it was good from Villa. I just think there's a couple of things that they could have done better. Maybe I've not worded it great on social media. Obviously, I've ended up getting slated on there, but I'm just giving my opinion on what I see. And still, there is a lot of stuff off the pitch I'm not happy with. I'm just giving my opinion. It's my opinion. I love Villa on the pitch, and I'm always very complimentary and very positive about Villa on the pitch. I haven't done the same off the pitch. It is what it is. But they're my feelings towards the 150th anniversary. I'm not really giving you anything to go on there, Dave, other than just giving you my opinion. But yeah, they're my thoughts. David Stiles is saying here, I got the 150th kit delivered on Saturday. I'm sending it back tomorrow. The quality is so basic. I'd rather wait for a better quality proper kit. The reason I've got it is it's going to be a collector's item. Not everyone will have one. It marks a special occasion. As I say, I think it should have been done last year. I do wonder what would have happened if Villa had been drawn away in the FA Cup third round and got knocked out. Like, what would have happened then? Where would the game fitted in? So it did feel a little bit like that game was chosen to try and shift a few tickets, because I think if it wasn't the 150th game, I don't think you'd have seen as many people there. But that's just me speculating. But yeah, they're my thoughts, Dave. You probably don't want to follow on from that.
I mean, I think everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I think you are every opinion that you hold is an honestly held one. I don't think. I mean, I haven't seen too much of X, but if you're getting pelters, I don't think that's particularly fair.
Don't go on
So
there.
yeah, I think every opinion you hold is a genuine one. I don't think there's any malice to it. So, but I'm sure as I say, from what I saw of those 150th celebrations, I think it came across well to the television audience at home.
Yeah, and like I say, I credit where it's due. Before the match, the 10 minutes before the game kicks off, and I would say this about the Premier League and the Champions League as well, what they've done with the videos and all the lights and the fireworks and whatnot, the music, it's really, really good. And Villa hasn't had anything like that probably ever. So credit where it's due. Hats off to whoever's organised that. And Chris Eck will have had to do. I do think that stuff's really good. My big was the ex-players in terms of the invite list and just the way they came out, because I just think it completely lost its emphasis, as Michael J. Edwards is saying here, and it lost its impact. It could have been a bigger thing. And for me, when I think, about 150 years celebrating my club, I think about all the players that were my heroes, all the players I've watched. Fans want to see those players introduced. They want to see the back. I think it's something that could be done on a game-by-game basis anyway. Just one player comes out and is introduced to the fans, gets to clap the whole 10. I do think that kind of thing helps with atmosphere. But, in terms of the atmosphere on a Friday for a third-round FA Cup game that, wasn't going particularly well in the first half as well, I think the atmosphere was incredible. Probably one of the best atmospheres of the season, and I include the Champions League in that. So yeah, that was brilliant. So well done to those involved. Right then, Dave, we're going to shift, because as quickly as we can, we're going to log on to a different show on this channel and do the preview show for the Everton game on Wednesday. Obviously, the game's coming thick and fast. Villa playing in the Premier League on Wednesday. So Dave and I will ask, is this the worst time to play Everton in years? Because I think it might well be. So if you're watching live, stay on the channel, because there is going to be another video very, very shortly. If you're listening back to this via video or audio, then thank you very much for listening and watching, and do all the things that I bang on about every week, including subscribing with post notifications on, comments, likes, everything you can do that can help the channel is really, really appreciated. There's 1,169 with us now live. So thank you very much for that excellent support. So bear with us. If you hang tight, in the next 5 minutes, we should be appearing on the channel with a different show. So thank you very much. And as always, up the Villa.